But she's like, well, I mainly design NPCs. And he's like, what's an NPC? And I'm like, what? You're not a gamer. Get out. Get. Your credibility is shot. Just leave. Hale, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Westworld. Season 4, Episode 1. The Auguries. An augury, Paul, is essentially an omen. It's a prophecy of the future.
Ah, I see. Since
this is a dystopian sci-fi future, I mean, the show itself is an augury, I guess. I don't know. Or this title is referencing the second-level cleric spell Augury in Dungeons & Dragons, so I'm calling it right now. This whole show is a giant D&D module.
There you go.
Sure. Tomb of Horrors, baby. Tomb of Horrors. All right. Anyway, okay. We open with the man in black offering to buy the Hoover Dam. When the current owner refuses, the man in black says he'll take it for free the next day.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a second, but essentially, that indeed comes to pass. We end with Christina, a video game writer and our Dolores stand-in, on her balcony making a pitch about a video game story with a happy ending. She then leaves the balcony as Teddy walks into view on the sidewalk below. And notably, the background music is an instrumental version of Lana Del Rey song Video Games. So that said, Paul, what did you think of Westworld Episode 1?
So I liked it, and that was a bit of a surprise since I was disappointed with the previous season.
Yep.
I was watching someone else's recap of that season, and boy, there were a lot of things that happened that were just I did not enjoy. So
I went back and watched our recap, and yeah, we were like,
I don't have the strength to do that.
You don't have By the way, that was 2 years ago, just FYI. So much time has passed since season 3. Almost as much time.
You know how much I hate who I was 2 years ago.
It's true. It's true, Paul.
Yeah.
You were a different man then.
That's right.
Okay, so you found yourself liking this episode maybe more than you thought you might.
I did. Certainly, the thing that was happening with Maeve was much simpler than, what they had her do in the previous season, where she, they're like, oh, why don't you go after, Dolores, and no, why don't you, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then she was like back and forth and fighting her and working with her and whatever. So this was simple, they're out to get her, and so she's going to kill all these people who are trying to get her, and then, goes to, Caleb. So that's simple. I liked her, and I liked that storyline there.
Got it.
It was interesting what was going on with Dolores / Christina. We're going to talk a little bit about what the theories are there, but I like that storyline.
Okay.
And what was happening with the man in black was, he was acting like a boss there.
He returned to form, right? He kind of returned to his like sinister man in black form that we maybe.
Yeah, well, he's probably a robot, so
Oh yeah, almost certainly.
I guess there's some question of whether or not it's his consciousness that was in that big database, whether that's in there. And Caleb, that was a little less interesting. I mean, him teaching his daughter how to, be a soldier or whatever, and then his wife giving him a hard time.
The wife giving him a hard time. We mentioned this before we started recording, but yeah, that whole scenario was annoying to me. And I get that she might feel that he's paranoid. Okay. But everyone watching who's watched any episode of Westworld knows he's not paranoid. So for her to keep saying it, because she doesn't just say it once. Like she goes at the long discussion they have about, you're a conspiracy theorist and you're very paranoid, and why do you're affecting our daughter, and you really need to stop being paranoid. And the whole time you're like, stop it. he's not paranoid. We know it. And so when it turns out to be, oh wow, you're not paranoid. You're like, yeah, of course. I don't know. That was so. I just wanted them to get past the, oh, you're crazy, and then like, come on, get to the point where he's not crazy. Okay, great. Hey. So anyway, that was annoying because we knew more than the character did, and we're like, come on, catch up to us, please. So, we've got these characters which I assume are in at least different realities, if not different times. Mm-hmm. In season 3, just a quick, I'm certainly not going to recap all season 3. I would be here for another 2 years. Season 3, Dolores placed her consciousness, into different bodies. And most of our protagonists, like Maeve and Bernard, thought she was trying to destroy humanity. Turns out she was trying to save humanity from the control of this giant supercomputer Rehoboam, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
She succeeded. The computer was destroyed, as far as we know. And Dolores Prime, the main Dolores, was apparently killed in the process. Rehoboam calculated that without its control, humanity would undergo a series of devastating wars, and humanity would be wiped out in 23 years, I think is what it said. And in fact, War and Destruction was starting worldwide right at the end of season 3. Like, oh, here it starts, boom. And so season 4 is taking place 7 years after that. So in that interim, we can assume there were a bunch of wars happening, probably of which Caleb was a part. And we also know that, according to, again, Caleb's reality, robots were destroyed. Because they're like, oh, the robots, they tried to kill us all, so get rid of them. And so we had that interesting scene, in season 3, he was a construction worker with a robot buddy. And now he's still a construction worker, but he's got a human buddy who's like, yeah, those robots, really. So his life really hasn't changed, but robots theoretically are gone. Except, obviously, in the case of, for instance, Maeve, who's gone off the grid. But interestingly, she's being hunted not by humans, but she's being hunted by hosts in this reality. So I think we're seeing 2 realities. I think Maeve, Caleb, and the Man in Black are in one reality. Mm-hmm. And Christine, we'll call her Christina. Christina and Teddy are in another reality. And so I'm guessing that those 2 things won't cross. It might be different times. I think it's at least different realities. At the end of season 3, we also saw William, our human Man in Black, apparently get killed and replaced by a host. You were mentioning you thought William's probably a host because
one of the things that has been discovered by others, but one of the things that happened to poor old Man in Black there was that some of his fingers were blown off, and this new guy walking around got his fingers. He had a glove, had a black glove on in the last season there to cover up the fact that he lost some fingers. But this guy, walking around no gloves. It's just him and his hands.
And it matches what we know, right? We know we are told it looked. I guess he could have survived, but it looked pretty good that he had died at the end of season 3.
Yes.
And we're talking 7 years later, and he had been at that time replaced by a host that was standing there. So 7 years later, the logical conclusion is that's a host. And that host is doing the bidding, it seems, of what I assume is kind of our main villain, maybe for this season, which is Charlotte. Charlotte Hale. She is a host. She is otherwise known as Charlores, because she was one of the bodies that Dolores' consciousness was placed into, but somehow it kind of it melded with her own personality, and so it created something. Whereas Dolores Prime was trying to save humanity, Charlores is either trying to control or destroy humanity. It's hard to tell, but Sinister doesn't like humanity and doesn't care if she kills it or does away with it, whatever. And so I think she's the one that's been trying to attack Maeve. Like, she's, for whatever reason, she has sent out hosts like Colonel Bingham, whatever, to take out Maeve. And when Maeve, looks back into Colonel Bingham's past through his conscious, whatever, his pearl, she sees him talking to the Man in Black. And so if the Man in Black works for Charlotte, you know, all that kind of makes sense. We also know that the Man in Black not only is trying to buy successfully acquires the Hoover Dam, but also is buying up all the land around Hoover Dam. Like, he's buying up all these empty lots and desert wasteland and stuff. And so,
now, what do you think happened to that guy that he was negotiating with?
Well, the guy's dead. I don't know if you're saying that maybe they turned him into a host or something at some point, but he killed himself. He cut his own throat, right? So,
right. So that, it makes me wonder. Like, I think somebody had imagined that they replaced him with a host, and that'd be an interesting thing where it's like, oh, we killed the guy, we replaced him with the host, and the host does what we want, and then the host kills himself. Like, why would you have the host kill himself?
Yeah, you wouldn't have the host kill himself. You would replace him with a host, which would be, in some ways, the plot of that Westworld sequel, Future World, that happened back in the day, where they were basically, the plot of that was replace world leaders with hosts, secretly, and so maybe that's kind of where this is going. But I think the implication was that the flies, because he sees the flies in his room, and then the next thing we see, he's under host control. I think the flies are nanobot hosts, essentially. They are a way that Charlotte, or the host generally, can control humans.
Oh,
I think they send these out.
That's kind of what I felt.
Turns them into controllable robots, essentially.
Right,
you turn a human into a robot like that via these flies. And the flies are obviously a callback to season 1.
Sure.
When we saw that the hosts they couldn't kill a fly because they weren't designed to kill. But then that one interesting shot where Dolores was like, smacked the fly in her neck. And like, So it's interesting that then they're using flies as their conduit to control humans.
Yeah. If they can't kill, can they shoo flies? You know,
right?
It's like,
it's like maybe it didn't matter. They didn't feel it. I don't know. It's interesting that in a world where the robots have been destroyed, potentially you make a little fly that looks like a fly, so they don't kill this particular robot. I mean, maybe that's they've gone underground a little bit. We are told that Hoover Dam is the site of it's controlling a bunch of data, so it's using all the power to host tons of. It's a data storage place, basically.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And sounds like William is talking about the data that Charlotte stole back in the day, which I can't remember if it's host data or guest data, but it's one or the other.
Guest data.
Okay, but I think that's where this data is being held. Maybe the idea is that this is going to become the new Forge for like the Sublime or whatever.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. That's what I was getting the idea that maybe if they're buying up all the land around it and everything, they're going to like just protect the hell out of it. And then this will be like host central. The other thought might be that this is the location of what people keep referring to in Christina's reality as the Tower. You see like depictions of it, and there's like a crazy guy, a homeless, like, oh, you see the tower? Do you see it? Oh, the tower. I'm wondering if the people that see the tower, which I believe is a real thing, are perhaps like outliers from our previous season or something. You know, people that are somehow. Anyway, so I'm assuming the tower, some giant control tower that maybe is creating like a Matrix-like environment for humans or something. I don't know. That's a wild one, but
yeah. Well, early, so now's the time to throw away wild.
Now's the time to throw out the weirdo guesses. If you out there have bizarre guesses and you want to like memorialize them, stick them in here. Stick them in the comments, and when you're right, in 8 weeks you win the internet.
Yeah, we'll give you a shout out.
I think that Christina is the video game avatar of a Dolores, is my thought. In that Dolores, let's say, wants to write a story with a happy ending. She wants to write stories, much like Ford was writing stories in Westworld. So Dolores, let's assume there's a Dolores consciousness out there that is, maybe there's this giant control tower controlling humanity in some way, and so she creates an avatar for herself in this virtual world. And it has similar interests to her. So her avatar wants to write stories, but write stories that are personal to her. So when people are like, this guy comes up like, I thought it was the tower that was controlling us, but it's you. You're responsible. I think somehow, at least this person and maybe some others have figured out that the avatar of Christina is the code writer, is the thing that's out there that's like controlling their destinies. Their lives are being story written, and that she is somehow this representation of that. That's what I'm getting out of it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Why you would have that person exist in that world without the knowledge of being in that world, because she doesn't have that knowledge.
She does not have that knowledge.
So why would you have that? Why you would do that is a question. I'm not sure why. So it's interesting, the fact that there are people who are bucking against, or who are straining against the idea of the world around them. And we assume that it's her, and I think it's a safe assumption that it's really Dolores, the one behind it. But that's a curious choice to make in terms of that.
I mean, it would be very weird, right? If, like, let's just say Christina is not Dolores, has nothing to do with Dolores. They just cast Evan Rachel Wood as another person. Her name's Christina. And
yeah, it makes sense that, but she could, one of the things that I'd seen a description, which I don't think we even contemplated, that what had happened to Dolores at the end of the third season was actually her mind was wiped.
Gotcha.
So that wouldn't necessarily kill her. It's just her identity was destroyed. Now the fact that fracture or a segment of her identity existed in these other hosts, and maybe those could be revived, I don't know. But I'm curious to see what happened. I'd like it to be some sort of, I think it is some sort of digital representation. But why you would have that, though, is the question, right? Why would you want to have this? One of the things I think also, too, that some people observed is some of the people passing her on the street were like, "Oh, this is your first time there."
Yeah,
suggest
that was interesting.
Players.
That got my attention. Yeah, they're like, "This is your first time? Oh, man, you got to check this place out." Right. Like, yeah, the idea being like somehow they've entered like a Westworld style park and are now exploring.
Like one thing, it's certainly possible. Maybe it's not, though. Maybe it's just another world that's controlled by them. I mean, if they have the ability to make flies that can jump into your brain and make you do what you want, yeah. But
what can't they do? Yeah.
But I wonder if this is. I guess another crazy thought would be, because who knows, we're going to find out, if this is just real world. It's like this is a new park.
Right. I even heard the idea that maybe this is a park for the hosts to come interact with the humans, like they reverse the roles of the participants somehow.
So those people that passed her up were hosts?
Maybe, right?
Okay,
that would be, in that scenario, they would be, yes. We did not meet Bernard in this episode.
We didn't
meet Charlotte either.
No.
They're both in the trailers, though.
We didn't see Stubbs.
We did not see Stubbs. Stubbs was left in a tub of ice.
Yes. So yeah, he should be frozen. He should be fine. Right. Just thaw him out.
Just fine.
Yeah.
So at the end of season 3, that was funny because Stubbs kind of got screwed over. He and Bernard get into like a hotel room and Bernard's going to hack into the Sublime basically. Yes. And Stubbs is bleeding out. He's been shot by Man in Black. So Bernard's like, okay, let's get you packed. Let's get you in this bathtub with some ice, and when I get back, we'll get you to the hospital or something. And then what we see then is Bernard coming back from the Sublime, but covered in dust. It's obviously been a long time.
Yeah.
And so the idea is like, does he look off to his left and see like this decayed Stubbs sitting in a tub of ice? When it comes to Bernard, so Bernard went to the Sublime, and then obviously spent, I would assume, years. The amount of dust on him seemed like that was he'd been just sitting there inert in apparently an empty hotel room for a long ass time. So assuming he was out for a while, he could still be in the Sublime 7 years later. During the events of what's happening now in season 4, he might be in the Sublime at this point, which would make it interesting if we see him, let's say, if he's talking to Christina at some point, that would suggest that maybe she's in some version of the Sublime or some version of a virtual world that he can connect to. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, I'll be interested to see if he talks to Christina or if he's talking to Maeve. I think that'll be an interesting thing of like, where is Bernard in this moment? I'd had a theory back when I watched our season 3 recap. I had a theory. I don't see there any suggestion of it in this episode, but my theory was that because he went to the Sublime to find answers to how to save humanity. Like, apparently they're on a 23-year cycle and they're going to be gone. So how do you save humanity? He goes to the Sublime. He comes back all these years later. Maybe I was wondering if maybe when he went to the Sublime, he found that instead of like being this heaven for hosts like it was cracked up to be, that the hosts had kind of made it a hell of their own. Like kind of like humans would do to look, it's utopia. Now I must get mine, kind of thing. And so like he found like a wasteland of sorts in the Sublime, and so he's kind of maybe coming back to kind of warn against the robots getting too ahead of themselves. Who knows? Anyway, again, very wild theory.
Yeah.
But when it's right, again, I win the internet, so it's great.
Oh, here's one more theory from me.
Okay.
It's all in somebody's head.
It's all in Legion's head. Oh, by the way, I did laugh at this. Christina has this blind date with a guy.
Yes.
And he claims to be a casual gamer. He's like, maybe what games you design? Might have played them. And she's like, well, I mainly design NPCs. And he's like, what's an NPC? And I'm like, what? You're not a gamer. Get out. Your credibility is shot. Just leave.
Yeah, she should have swiped left at that point.
Exactly. Are you talking about the NPCs in Tetris? In Words with Friends? Yeah. Anyway, so that was just funny. So yes, we're in a world of NPCs. Dolores, NPC that kind of made good. So also the fact that he said that most people see NPCs as cannon fodder. Disagree, my friend. NPCs are some of the coolest characters to interact with in games that I play in anyway. But so again, credibility completely out the window. Get out of here, you.
Strike one, strike two.
That's right. Exactly. That guy's not worth it. Christina, you can find better. I'll bet Teddy knows about NPCs.
Yeah.
Teddy shows up. Apparently, he's the one that beats up the guy who was threatening her.
Yes, apparently.
And so it seems like he's watching over her. Maybe he's somehow an avatar or a host that's been sent to keep her from being harmed. If she was, let's say, an avatar in this game by the game designer, you can imagine a game designer might throw in bodyguard.
Sure.
Let's throw in a Teddy program to keep me safe.
Yeah. Certainly, if Dolores was going to have someone do that, I can see her choosing Teddy to do that.
Yeah. So there's more theories. There you go. Bring your theories to us, folks out there, and happy to check them out. Anything else, good sir?
No.
All right. We will be back talking about the final 2 episodes of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and of course, episode 2 of Westworld. Thanks so much, good sir. I appreciate it.
Certainly.
And we'll catch everybody next time.